how's it going? It's been a minute. Today I am back and I thought I would share a springy video with you guys. So I wanted to go with a recipe that was more springy, more fun. So today we are doing, carrot cake macarons. So a lot of you have requested that I show you guys my macaron recipe, so French macarons, not to be confused with the macaroon, which is like the coconut cookie. So this one is an almond-based sandwich cookie. It's really, really good. And today we are doing a carrot cake version of that cookie. However, keep in mind, the cookie itself is always the same. So if you don't like carrot cake, you could just swap out the filling that we're gonna put in later, but the cookie shells themselves are always the same. It's my go-to recipe and you can follow it for any flavor macaron you wanna make, whether it be vanilla, chocolate, salted caramel. Always use this recipe. It's my go-to and it works really, really well. So to begin, you're going to need a large bowl and you're also going to need a sieve. You are going to need as well 140 grams of powdered sugar, 140 grams of almond flour. So it's basically just ground up bleached almonds. And you are going to need 2 times 55 grams of egg white. Okay? You're also going to need 35 grams of water, and lastly, 140 grams of granulated sugar. Okay. Also, side note, you really want to have a scale for this recipe. You don't want to be using measuring cups. So be sure to have a scale in order for it to work. It's very scientific. It's got to be precise. It's got to be perfect for you to get those perfect macaron shells. To begin, I am going to put in 140 grams of powdered sugar, and I'm going to also put in 140 grams of my almond flour. And now you could use a spoon if you want, or you could just go like this with the sieve. It's totally up to you. But I like using a spoon because as I'm doing it, I'm mixing the almond and powdered sugar together. This way it's going to be more of an even mix. Once both the almond and the powdered sugar have been added into the bowl, we are going to go ahead and add in 1 of the 2 55 grams of egg whites. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1. It's also at this point that I will be adding my food coloring. So because we're doing carrot cake cupcakes, I thought it would be cute to have an orange color. So this is my orange Americolor food gel. Okay, I love these ones. I'm just going to add in just a few dots because I feel like I like it when it's almost pastel, not too strong of a color. At this point, you want to start with a wooden spoon. What we're looking for is just to mix everything up and get a kind of paste. So you're just going to mix it up. You're not going to overthink it. You don't have to worry about folding it or whatnot. Just go ahead and mix it as you usually would. So this is what it looks like once it's mixed and done. So at this point, you want to make sure to cover your paste because you don't want it to harden or dry up. Okay, just like so. Now we're going to work on our meringue part of the cookie. So at this point, you want to take the 140 grams of granulated sugar and you want to add that 35 grams of water to it. And now this is going to go onto the heat. I put it full blast, so I put it on high, and you want to let it go until it achieves a temperature of 235 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is also very important that you get yourself one of these thermometers because you really have to be precise with this as well. So we are searching for 235 degrees Fahrenheit. So now you can see that the sugar and water is starting to boil. Another little trick to prevent crystallization is just to take your brush with a bit of water and come and brush the edges, just like this. So you want to do that just a few times as we're waiting for the temperature to get to 235. And like I said, it'll just prevent crystallization and will help us achieve a glossier syrup. And while that's going, we'll be able to make the template for our piping on the baking sheets. So here I just have a piece of parchment that I've cut out to fit my baking sheet. And I have also just the cap of a sprinkle bottle. You could use any round object that's the size of the macaron that you are going to want to get at the end. So just with this here, you could go ahead and make circles. And this will just be serving us as a guide to help us get the same size macaron every time. A very important little fun fact, you really do want to make sure to turn the parchment to the other side, because when we're going to be piping the macarons onto the sheet, you don't want any of the lead from your pencil to be in contact with the food, right? So while our sugar mixture is coming to a boil and reaching that temperature, we're gonna go ahead and take these 55 grams of egg white, and we're just gonna pop this into our mixing bowl. And we're gonna get this going. We wanna whip it up to a soft peak. We've got the soft peaks here. We're gonna be slowly adding our syrup to the whipped egg whites. So just slowly, gradually add them in. You'll see how I do it. Okay, so I've let that go for a few minutes, and we're just gonna check the stage of our egg whites. So if I check it like this, you can see that it's still quite runny, not quite the stiff peak that we're looking for now that we've added in that syrup. So I'm just gonna get this going again and keep whipping it. So now I'm pretty pleased with the meringue. Also, just a little trick for you guys. If you feel the outside of the bowl and it's starting to feel less hot and closer to room temperature, that's also when you know that it's good to go. Now we are at the favorite part for me, which is the macaronage. So the macaronage is basically when we're introducing the meringue to our almond paste that we prepared before. So the way I like to do it is in 3 batches. So we're gonna start with the first batch. So it's about 1/3 of the meringue mixture that we're going to add into the almond paste that we had prepared. So this first addition, we're gonna work in with a wooden spoon. So you don't have to worry too much about air bubbles in the meringue. You just wanna go ahead and mix this in. Keep mixing until you no longer see white. So as you can see right now, a lot of it is white. So you just have to keep mixing. So at this point, there's no longer any white visible, right? And once we start with our second addition, we are going to switch from the wooden spoon to the spatula. And this is where our technique is going to change as well. We want to now fold in the egg white rather than just kind of mix it in any what way. So I'm going in with my second addition, and I'm leaving about 1/3 of the meringue left. And now you really want to make sure to go around and under, around and under. And when you're folding like this, you might feel like you're not doing anything and you might feel like it's not coming together, but trust the process, it's gonna happen. And this is when you're gonna start seeing the true color of the macarons. So you see right now it's looking very, very light, almost peachy. So I think I'm going to add in a few more drops of my food coloring. So at this point you could come and adjust. I would suggest, if you want to add more food coloring, to do it now before the last 1/3 of the meringue that we're going to put in, because you want to avoid over mixing it. So I'm just going to add some here. I'm going to fold it just a few times, and I'm going to go ahead and add my last addition. You want to make sure that you're really getting all that meringue, because as we said before, these cookies are very, very picky. You want to make sure you're getting every ounce of the mixture. And just like before, you want to keep folding it in. So you're just going, as I said, until you don't notice any more white. And you want to get to the ribbon stage. So right now, if I pick up my mixture, it kind of falls in a clump. So you want to keep folding it until it falls in what we call the ribbon stage, which is a stage in which the mixture kind of falls down like a ribbon. And at that point, you should be able to draw an 8 in your meringue or in your macaron mix. You see? We're getting there. So one last mix. I would say we're there. You see? I'm able to do an 8 before it all falls down. And now we're ready to fill the piping bag. So here I have my trusted piping bag that I've used for years now, and I have it attached to a round piping tip. And because I'm alone in the kitchen, what I like to do is set it in a glass, and to avoid the macaron batter to come out from the end, I just fold it up like this, and then I prop that in the glass, and I open my bag like this. And at this point, I am able to pour in my batter without worrying that it spill out. And so as you can see in the macaron batter itself, we didn't put any flavoring, we didn't put anything that would make it carrot cake other than the color. So this is the same batter that you'd be using for any flavored macarons you would like to make at home. And also, I feel like I keep giving you guys little tips, but the last thing you want to be sure of is the humidity in your kitchen. So to be honest, I've struggled with this a lot making macarons. I've learned by experience that by turning on your air conditioning or by turning on a dehumidifier, you're gonna have a better chance of getting perfect macarons, because when it is a bit too humid in your kitchen, it might crack, they may not lift properly and create that foot that we all love. So the best piece of advice that I could give to you is to not make macarons on rainy days. And if you have an air conditioner or a dehumidifier, get that on a few hours before you start baking. This way we're sure that the humidity is at its lowest in the kitchen. Now we're going to be ready to go ahead and pipe the macarons onto our template. Like I showed you guys before, you see the circles through the template. So I'm just going to use that as a guide so that my macarons aren't too big or too small. It's going to help me create a more even cookie. So I'll pipe these and I'll be right back with you guys. So I'm just going to kind of go through the piping with you guys just to be sure that you understand properly. So you want to start at the center and you want to put very little pressure, and you want to leave yourself a bit of a ridge, do a bit of a turn and come up. The reason we're leaving a bit of a ridge is because we're going to have to bang it to get the air bubbles out, and when we bang it, the macaron is kind of going to spread. So I just use a kitchen towel underneath before I drop my baking tray, just to not get any complaints from the neighbors. So you could drop it like this. It's still kind of loud, but you just want to drop it to get rid of some of these air bubbles. And by dropping it like this, you're also going to see the macaron expand and fully fill the template that we drew earlier. And if you see a few air bubbles coming up to the top that haven't yet popped, you can use a toothpick or anything pointy to kind of get those air bubbles out. I'm gonna use a chopstick today. So just pop them yourself just to get those air bubbles out, because we want a fairly air bubble free cookie. You don't have to go crazy. If ever you see some that are very evident, at that point, you just pop them out. So at this point, I enjoy adding some type of sprinkle or some type of decoration. In this case, I'm going to be sprinkling some chopped walnuts on top because our flavor is carrot cake and I love chopped nuts in my carrot cake. So I've got some already chopped walnuts here and I'm just gonna sprinkle some over top. You don't wanna go too crazy, so I would say kind of sparingly, but you know, you want there to be enough so that people understand what flavor it is. So at this point, our macarons have been piped. We have added the chopped walnuts, and now we have to be patient because we want them to form a skin before we go into the oven. So usually it takes about 30 minutes to an hour, I would say, and this really depends on the humidity of your room. So going back to what I said previously, the less humid your kitchen is, the less time it'll take as well. And so what I do, I usually set a timer for 30 minutes. I come back and just with my finger, I kind of touch the macaron to see if it's formed a skin or to see if it's still humid to the touch. If it's formed a skin, then we could go ahead and pop it in the oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about 12 to 15 minutes. If the skin hasn't formed, you just play it cool, you wait it out, and you come back every, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes to check and see if that skin has formed. So I will do just that. I will set these aside, and while we're waiting for the skins to form, we'll actually be able to go ahead and start working on that filling. So in order to make this a carrot cake filling, we're actually going to use carrot cake in itself. And obviously with carrot cake, you can't go without cream cheese frosting. So that's what I'm gonna make first of all. So I'm just gonna go over the ingredients first, and then we'll go ahead and make the frosting. I have 45 grams of unsalted butter, and I have the double, so 90 grams of cream cheese. You wanna use blocked cream cheese. You don't wanna use the cream cheese in a tub because that'll lead to like a runny mess, and you really don't want that. And I then have 125 grams of powdered sugar, and I put in here about half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Okay, and then lastly I have half a teaspoon of vanilla. So we're just going to start by creaming the butter and the cream cheese together in the stand mixer. You could also use just a bowl and wooden spoon, or you could use a hand mixer, whatever you find works best. So in the meantime, while it's coming together, you might just want to stop it every once in a while and go ahead and scrape the bottom of the bowl. So once your butter and cream cheese have creamed together for a few minutes, we'll now go ahead and add our half teaspoon of vanilla and get that mixed in just for a few seconds. So once that's mixed in, we're gonna go ahead and slowly add in our powdered sugar and cinnamon. You wanna add this on a very low speed, otherwise the powdered sugar is gonna come out of the mixer and make a hell of a mess in your kitchen. So just start off on low, and spoonful by spoonful, we'll go ahead and add the sugar. Once all the sugar is in and you see that it's starting to get absorbed into the butter and cream cheese, then you could go ahead and turn it to medium high and let that go for a few minutes again. Just a little tip. If you notice that the frosting or the buttercream is looking a bit runny, you could go ahead and add some more powdered sugar. On the contrary, if you see that your buttercream is a bit stiff, you could go ahead and add a teensy bit of milk at a time until you get that perfect consistency. All right guys, so I just checked my macarons. And surprisingly, they took even less than 30 minutes. So at this point, if I touch them, there's no residue at all on my hands. Nothing sticks. So that's what we're looking for. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these in the oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 12 to 15 minutes. If it's the first time you're making this recipe, I would suggest putting them for 12 minutes. And at that point, just keeping an eye on them to make sure they don't overcook. So my macarons have just come out of the oven. I let them cool on the baking sheet for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then you could take them off, there's no problem. I just wanna show you guys what they look like and what you're looking for. So if I just unstick one here, so you can see here on the bottom, what I usually do, I kind of with my finger just push in like this, just to create a bit more room for filling, because I love fillings in macarons. So now that our macarons are out of the oven, we are ready to discuss more about this filling. So as you can see here, I have my favorite carrot cake that I made onto a baking sheet. The reason I baked it in a baking sheet is because I want it to be thinner so that we could actually use it in the macarons. I'm not gonna make thick cake layers because that'll make it harder for me to use. You can use your favorite box mix if you don't feel like making a whole carrot cake just for carrot cake macarons. Or if you'd like, you can make your favorite carrot cake recipe and bake it on this baking sheet the same way I have. I use a piping tip. Any tip will do. You just want to make sure that the circumference of the large hole is smaller than the circle that we made for the macarons, because you don't want this hole to be bigger than your macaron itself. You want to make sure it's quite smaller. This will be sandwiched basically between two macaron shells. So once you find the right size that'll fit with the macarons you baked, you just want to go ahead, as you can see I've done some already. You just want to go ahead and push in and then pull back out. And I just use a knife to kind of go around the edges because it's a moist cake. It does kind of stick and doesn't come out on its own. And then here you have it. I find this to be a bit too high, so what I like to do, I like to just cut this in half, and then you get these perfect little circles of carrot cake that are like a bite-sized piece that we're gonna sandwich between our shells with our cream cheese cinnamon buttercream that we made earlier. And you'll see, you'll feel like you're biting right into a carrot cake. It's delicious. So we're finally ready to fill our carrot cake macarons. I just matched them up by 2 that would fit perfectly together, because once they bake, the shapes can kind of vary just a bit, and the sizes as well. So you just want to make sure that you line them up by macarons that really fit together perfectly. Once that's done, you want to go ahead and take your cream cheese buttercream and just go ahead and pipe a ring of the buttercream around like so. Like so. And like so. I'll do 3 for now. Once that's done, you want to take your little piece of carrot cake and you want to just lay it like so in the center of the buttercream ring. Another trick I do just to make sure that it sticks properly, I'll just put a teeny dollop of buttercream right on top of that cake just to make sure that it adheres properly to the shell. And you just want to put a bit of pressure, just like that. Another piece of advice, the macarons are best once they've aged for about 24 hours. So you can go ahead and eat them now, but they will be so much better if you just let them stand for 24 hours. You'll see that tomorrow, all the flavors will have mixed together and it'll be so much better. So there you have it, my carrot cake macarons. Please try the recipe and let me know down below in the comments what you thought of it. And please consider subscribing to be notified when I upload more videos. So yeah, if you have any other suggestions for videos or for desserts that you would like to see, please don't hesitate in leaving me a comment and a like. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.